right. Regina, how are you?
Hey, Adam, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. For anybody listening out there and they can't see Regina Fisher, M&A advisor, Fintech. I'm Adam Ray. I'm the CEO of BizNexus. I'm here with Regina Fisher today from Bristol Group Fintech Advisors. So officially welcome and thanks for coming back for your second appearance, Regina.
Yeah, it was so much fun the first time.
Yeah, it was. And a lot has happened since then. So I'm actually really interested to hear your take on this space in particular. It's been interesting and a little bit challenging from what I can see. So again, just to recap for the audience, we don't need to do a huge deep dive into your history and your origin story and how you got here, but remind the audience what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, specifically within fintech, and why that's relevant, and that is why we have you here. But please let the audience know.
Yeah. We are a group of M&A advisors. I specifically focus on fintech companies. So we help business owners exit their business through sale. For the most part, those are full exits, 100% sale shares, but we also can assist when it's a minority or majority exit, right? We guide the business owner through that journey. Often they come to us not really knowing exactly what they want to do and what would be the right approach and where to start. And we can take them from this is what you have to do now in order to be prepared in 2-3 years to actually exit, to these are the right steps right now if you're looking for a strategic buyer, if you're looking for somebody to come in with strategic money, invest into the company. How do we shape up all the information that we actually have about your business in order to answer all the questions that the buyers have, and then guide through the entire process all the way until the deal is done. So classic M&A. Specifically in fintech.
Yeah, and for you, what I've always really liked about you is your background is really working with those bigger fish initially. I mean, you were working with the corporate clients that were looking at fintech partnerships, fintech deals, and now, especially in this space, you're kind of in that middleman area, middle person area where you're connecting the fintech founders oftentimes with these larger fish, whether it's a strategic or private equity group, but the main buyers in the space right now are typically those bigger players who are looking to acquire something that's growing fast and much smaller, right?
Yes, correct. So personally, I was in fintech. Actually, sold off my job one time. So I was in the private bank running the credit card department and sold off all my projects. And I worked a long time, 12 years, creating strategic partnerships between technology companies, financial institutions, those that have a license, those that have a product, those that want to distribute the product. And it's all negotiation and partnership discussions. And then I morphed into the M&A advisory role, which I like a lot because whether you sell a minority share of a fintech or you exit your business full that you've had for 30 years, it's a huge financial and often also quite emotional decision. People don't want to be so emotional, sometimes because technology, right? We don't think so much. We think black and white, zeros and ones, but it is emotional. Emotional also maybe as what does it mean for me personally? How's it going to change my life, my role? And it's a great role that we're playing in that context of how we guide our clients through those transactions, through those days, weeks, months, ups and downs throughout the process. It's more psychologist, a lot of negotiation, but a lot of just knowing where this is going to go and the questions that are going to pop up and the things that obstacles that are going to open up in front of us to be prepared for that. That's one of the main pieces that we contribute.
Yeah, and probably a lot of expectation setting now in this environment with fintech founders who may have started out with one idea of where their company is going and where they sit right now, which is beginning of the summer. What is it, the 27th today? So we're June 27th, 2024. I'm going to let you take over me. What are you seeing there in terms of really what's been trending in your niche and who's actually out there buying and what's happening with the founders, with the management teams that you're speaking with on a day-to-day basis? I'm sure there's some sort of some capitalization discussions you're having on an ongoing basis in those challenges. So I'm going to shut up.
Those are a lot of big questions, right?
Yeah.
It's like everything about everything, right? So I want to start off with saying that you got to be aware that the fintech industry is huge, right? I talked recently to somebody, I don't even remember who it was, PA or something, and he was like, what is fintech even? And I said, are you kidding me? It's everything from PayPal to how you check your bank account, right, on your mobile phone. But fintech is almost is as big as what we call the home service industry, where plumbers and electricians and roofers and contractors. It's so big, right? And fintech is the same thing. So we have everything in there from biometric identification to open an account to sending cryptocurrencies internationally and everything in between, right? So fintech is a huge industry. And of course, because it's a huge industry, there's a lot of many different things happening. It's not just this one trend going in this direction with the industry, right? So crypto, of course, is still up and coming, and we've seen so many projects coming and rising and failing and dropping and coming back alive. I think we're going to see a lot of consolidation in that space over the next year or two, right? So smaller ones grouping together to bigger ones, or bigger ones knobbing up little ones. And then we have the regulators slamming down in the US, the regulators slamming down on a lot of fintechs now, one after the other. Once they find a little loophole that's been opened up for one, they go after everybody who's been doing the same thing. So the regulator understands now more and more what is happening in fintech. Who are the fintech people? What do we need to watch out for? So I think we're going to see more regulations coming in that space as well. But that's a whole different section. And in general, I was at a couple of conferences recently, one in New York and one in San Francisco. The room is full with very enthusiastic entrepreneurs, startups that are building new platforms, connecting pieces that have not been connected prior to, and they're so enthusiastic. And then I stood there, statistically 1 in 100 it's gonna make it, and out of those 1 out of 10 is actually really gonna go past a certain size, right? But it's beautiful to see how much enthusiasm there always is, and that the innovation and the spirit is in the fintech industry, in my opinion, still stronger than in any other industry. There's just so much drive there, and so much desire to make things even more connected, right? One other thing that I thought was very interesting is we always talk about frictionless, right? For the consumer, make it less frictionless. Now bring in AI to make things even easier and of course, cost effective, but also servicing the customer 24/7. That we're going to get to the point that human nature is not going to like the frictionlessness anymore. It's too easy. Because in the end of the day, fintech services what? The financial services industry, and that is our money. And as a customer, as a consumer, when I'm dealing with my money, I want to make sure everything is safe and secure. So how do I, of course, there's whatever SOC 2 and regulatory and FINRA, what all these different organizations that make sure it's safe. But as a consumer, do I know actually who's watching what's happening with my money? So I need to have that sense of safety, what's happening there, right? We hear so much fraud and spam and hacking. And now if I shop something online, it goes frictionless over into my PayPal account or my wallet, and I just click a button, we recognize the device, and it's all paid for, and now the money flows. To some extent, I think it's gonna be too much, and people are gonna go like, whoa, we want to roll that back. So that's just a personal thought, which I thought was very interesting.
No, I agree. I mean, that's the whole wealth manager value prop, right? I mean, at some point you want someone who you can shake hands with and you can trust. I mean, it's the M&A advisory value prop, right? You want to work with somebody who you trust, who's going to assess your best options and give you a face-to-face recommendation on why something will work, why something won't, especially if it's something like a one-time transaction for an entrepreneur.
Yeah, you mentioned wealth tech. So there's a lot of platforms coming up now, making it again with AI, helping people figure out what's their best investment strategy and what should they buy. And I saw one where they say, like, I want to invest like I don't know, Cindy Lauper or something, and they know that, and then they give you the same accounts.
That's a bubble. That's terrifying. Really, it's like, yeah, I want to invest in what the Kardashians are investing in. But so like when you're in that conference, obviously you're you're an M&A advisor focused on fintech, you're an eternal optimist, and there's a lot of enthusiasm in these conferences, but like where are these things going, right? So these companies that, I mean, I have a generalist platform, and we've had a lot of companies coming through that have messy cap tables, right? They've raised some money. Now they're looking for their next options. They're not really sure what they are. So they wind up on the phone with us, and it's like, well, do we connect them with an advisor who does 100% sales, or do we connect them with someone like Regina who can do maybe like a minority investment with a larger player? But there are a lot of companies out there that are running out of runway. So these interesting ideas, these Cindy Lauper wealth tech companies, if they've raised, a couple million, but they're not raising any more, like that corporate acquisition pipeline is dry, right? I mean, these companies aren't really acquiring they were 12 months ago. What are you seeing there?
Look, there's still people out there with money that are looking to invest. Always there, right? Is there now more money or less people or something statistically, right? But in the end of the day, if you have a good product and you have a good value proposition, you know what you're looking for, and you find the right partner, the right investor, the right buyer, right? The deal is still happening. So I'm never a fan of this generalization and stereotyping and things like this. Yeah, maybe so. So what definitely, and we've seen a trend already for a while now, is the buyers are much more conservative, much more diligent. They're not making foolish investments anymore. But if they want it, if they go like, this totally fits my strategy, and I have this over here, and I can plug these two things together, and now suddenly, and they have this vision, they're going to pay, right? But what you said about the messy cap tables, that is something that I highly recommend any business owner, founder, entrepreneur. Always make sure you are aware of the long-term effects when you take on money. So it's so amazing. There's this founder, and now you get this money, and suddenly somebody gives you $1 million or 10 million or something, and they just want this, and suddenly you dilute it. Not only that you dilute it, it maybe makes future options more difficult. So you always have to be aware of, anytime you give up shares, you're giving up a piece of the cake, and can you get it back? Or can you get the control back? And what does it mean if you can't? And who now has the control if you're not anymore, right? So in the earlier stages, they tend to be way too enthusiastic and excited about getting the money, because of course a lot of them start bootstrapped and with almost no money and working around the clock, and then suddenly you get money. It seems so old wisdom, right? So little kids, watch out what you're doing. But it is really, you don't want to regret something later.
Yeah, it's not to go off track, but it's also unfortunate that at that stage, that's where most of the snakes are, right? In the advisory world, or not in your advisory world, but in the angel world, or in Boston, there's this whole ecosystem, in my opinion, of advisors who are kind of preying on these very early stage companies popping up out of the MITs of the world, and advising for equity, what have you, and then you're stuck with that. So you're stuck with that on your cap table.
Especially in that space, yeah. There's a lot of people that play the numbers game. So I get equity in 100 companies, and one's going to make it, and that's worth my time and effort, right? But they're not trying to help 100 companies to really get off the ground. If you talk about snakes, but luckily they're rare. I think most people are actually really I still believe most people are actually, when they take the time and they invest into a company and they go through the process and they do the due diligence, right? Then they're actually really interested in making it work, right? So the snakes are, like you just mentioned, if there's advisors say, I'm going to help you sell or something. But there's
this is going to be a live podcast, obviously. So if I could roll back that term right now, I would, because I think there's going to be pushback in the online comments. But there are snakes, and it does happen, especially at the early stages. But getting back to why this is relevant for you, are you having these conversations? Are you coming across founders, or have you been working with founders who are just they were looking for a full exit, for a full acquisition, and now they're thinking about something a little more creative, right? Something.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So I have a client right now. He first approached me saying, I want to sell the company because I want to do something else. And over the course of the conversations that I've had with him, I made it clear to him that nobody's going to buy your company without you. So that's a no-go. And therefore, we need to look at, number one, you staying on in some certain role, and can we somehow fold project B? Because a lot of times, founders, they go and they run with it and they put a lot of time and effort into something, and then there's another shiny object over there, and they go, oh, well, I want to do this now, and then I want to put all my investment and all my time in there. So how can we fold this baby in there? And then so we are on the track now, talking to some people that are interested in a minority share with a future growth potential. And over the course of the time, this is a really great example for me, and why I like what I do is this particular guy. He's a CEO, founder. He's got a great management team, great team in place. But every other phone call he gets off at the end, he says, Regina, I've never had anybody to talk to the way I can talk to you. And that's exactly what it is. It's like I listen, but I also tell him, hey, no, this is not going to work, right? We're not going to be able to do this. Let's not even think about it any longer. Like, what are our other options?
Yeah, no, I've worked with you long enough to agree. You're direct, but in a refreshing way. So I think you tell it straight, which is nice.
All right. Sorry, I don't have time to tell you something that I later have to roll back or boring.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so you're running into these companies that are looking to do something that could be looking at solutions that they maybe wouldn't have 6 months ago, 12 months ago. But who do you see as the active? Maybe if you just touch on who you're seeing as active buyers, what's happening with valuations? Are they gone to hell, or there's just more diligence and valuations are the same, or what's the state of the union in that department?
I see the real buyers that have money and are serious. They look. I sometimes feel like I don't have to go find them; they can find me, right? So because they're on the way, they have these juniors. Everybody's hiring these interns, and all these interns do all day long is go search the internet, go make phone calls, go send out emails, and I don't know how they're incentivized if they find a deal or something. I get emails every day, several, like, hey, we're looking for this, we're looking for that. Do you have this? Do you have that? Right? So that's one thing. So the serious buyers, they're out there. They're looking, even the corporate strategic investors, right? They have teams. They have M&A teams, right? Does a little company have a team to go find something else? No, but they're also not in the space, right? And if they're looking for something in particular, they know exactly what they want. Right? So then that's more a direct conversation. I had somebody recently talk to me saying, like, can you help us buy company X in country Y? And I said, oh, you know exactly what you want? I said, yeah, but we feel like it would be great to have somebody in between and not a founder and owner talking directly. It's a hard negotiation.
And right? So you're mainly working with strategics, with the corporate acquirers, not funds at this point. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's anything goes, right? It's like what I'm always trying to say is no two deals are alike. It's not if I say I'm only doing this particular deal type, I'm still having 500 different variations. So
yeah.
There's no two deals, and that's kind of the beauty of why I like what I'm doing. It's like in reality, it's always a new story and always new people, always new personalities, characters, right? Traits. People that are very cool suddenly get upset last minute. I had a client recently, shortly before closing, he called me and said, Regina, I'm getting fever blisters. I'm so yeah, that's your body reacting to the psychological stress that comes with a deal, right?
That's on the founder side. I mean, I'd imagine you're working with two very different personas. I mean, you're like, are you wearing the hoodie to the Silicon Valley conference and the suit and the full suit to the New York conference, or how does that work between buyers and sellers?
Look, it's accepted in fintech that you can be one or the other, and nobody looks down on the other anymore. Those days are long gone. I remember when I started in banking, and I went to a little conference, and they were all very tall men in dark suits, and I was as a woman with a dress. I mean, the sore thumb sticking out, and it's just crazy. Right? But yeah, no, those days are gone. Nobody. You can wear. Obviously, I mean, people wear their. Yeah, you can wear anything you want anymore. It's not, and the respect is there, right? You're a techie founder, right? You make an amazing product that I want. Why would I judge you by your hoodie, or why would I judge you because you wear a suit and a tie? Because I like what you're doing. I like the stuff, right? Are you going to be able to deliver the documentation I need for my due diligence, then I'm going to judge you. Right? If it's a handwritten piece of paper, then I'm going to judge you for your quality, but not for whether your hoodie has a stain.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. And so, I mean, we're 2 quarters in. How do you see the rest of the year playing out? If you had to look in your crystal ball and say things are going the right direction, or as interest rates come down, we're going to see more activity. I mean,
I think we're still going to see a few more blow-ups where the regulator finds some fines and fines companies for doing something completely out of line. So compliance issues going to be popping up here and there, and then everybody's going to go, ooh, and we have to fix that. And then we're going to see, of course, some large companies. But I honestly do not pay attention to the unicorns and the big hundreds and hundreds of millions of deals. That's what everybody talks about. And anytime you look for statistics, that's what your information you get about. I'm interested in deals about 10 million, 30 million, $25 million, right? Sometimes it's like if somebody has something and it's worth 3 million, it's beautiful. That's 3 million is so much more intense than a $300 million deal, right? Because $300 deal plus minus, I don't know, $1 million makes a big difference, but 3 million, it's very exciting. So,
and I should have led with that. I mean, that is your wheelhouse. You're pretty much kind of lower middle market, 5 to 50. That's your sweet spot.
Somewhere around that. We're going to see, I think the buyers out there, they have their searchers. They're going to find some stuff. I'm not worried about the future. The election, is it going to play into that? Oh, no. I mean, it's going to get Wall Street's going to go crazy, and people are going to go crazy, and we don't know what's going to happen on the streets, and people are going to attack each other, or I don't know what. But the fintech ecosystem is an innovative, entrepreneurial group of people that just going to keep going because they know the need is there and the talent is there. San Francisco is blowing up again, property prices, because of all the people moving back for AI. I thought that was very interesting. I have some friends that just recently moved there. They said it was crazy. Every week the apartment went up a couple $100. So finally had to grab it. And I said, what's happening? I said, yeah, AI, everybody's hiring. So the whole Silicon Valley is having a boost again. We're going to see that normalize again. I think it's right
back.
now.
I hope. I'd love to see that.
It's going to who all really, but it's going to take, I think, at least 1.5 years, 2 years until all that becomes really tangible again. Like who actually really uses AI and how many different AI applications do we need? Do we really need one tailored to every sector and industry, or can we have one and that can services? Is there going to be this one big AI player coming up? That's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, or are we all out of jobs and it just didn't really work out?
So come on, it's never going to happen.
I don't know. It is hilarious how many companies out there are just slapping AI. Like our new release AI. I mean, I'm not going to name any specific players in our industry, but every vendor in the lower middle market M&A industry is slapping AI on their product. It's just in the product description. It's the shiny ball.
A few years ago was blockchain, and
right.
It's a bandwagon. You're jumping on. You want to ride it. You say maybe I'm a lucky one, and but then again, a lot of times it's not even AI. It's just process automation. So that's going to be very interesting to watch.
I mean, it's been amazing for us. Like, I mean, we're a small team. We're around 20, and just in terms of
I'm sorry. This
no problem.
Phone gets banged.
Fintech founder coming in. No, just in terms of how that's helped us as a small team, just scale and do things that we could have never done a year ago. I'm sure you're seeing that with founders who you're speaking with on a regular basis. It's interesting journey.
I think I said that before. I also think that with AI taking over every sector, and this is a little bit not fintech, it's just like in general, we're gonna see the people, the humans. We're gonna want more human interaction. So while everything is going away from being just automated and online, suddenly we're gonna go like, no, I want to go to the bank and see my banker and shake his hand, and I want to see my wealth advisor and trust the money is actually safe. And we talked about that earlier about the frictionless, right? I thought that was a very interesting point, that everything gets more and more frictionless. So it's so automated, it's connected, that I can log in here and with my password here, and it connects me over there, and suddenly I can access my money that's over here and it's being drawn over. Totally frictionless, great, but it's going to get to the point where we have to take it back a step, right?
Yeah.
People are not going to trust it anymore if it's too automated, if it seems too easy, right? This is at the end of the day, fintech. I said it earlier. Did I said it to you before? Did I said it on this call? It doesn't matter. It's all about our money. We talk about the humans, people's money. They're gonna want to know what's happening with my money. Where's my money? Where's my money safe? Right?
Yeah, and how easily mistakes could happen if things are moving that quickly and it's that frictionless. Like, what if something goes wrong?
Exactly.
It's terrifying.
And again, the other day, story about wire fraud. I'm like, how is this even possible? Right? So somebody must be logging into some dirty site. I mean, again, so somewhere, some links, some risk, and then they had an email forwarder, and all their emails get forwarded somewhere else, and then they intercept an email and then answer back to they didn't even intercept it. They just followed up with another email saying, "Hey, by the way, no, this is the correct address." And the wire gets. This is not rocket science or something, right? But people worry about, where's my money? How can I lose my money, right? As it's always about making it easy to spend money, fine, right? So we all spend more money than we have, or the majority of humans do, right? But if I have money in the savings, or I have any kind of assets, or I want to know where that is, I want to be able to trust the system. So that's where the regulator comes in, but that's also where all the fintech companies come in to make sure that clients actually really know. And I'm sure maybe we're going to see some more standards. So like the SOC 2 for securities, are there going to be more standards coming up, or more like stamps? So this is actually a good safe technology now that you can trust, not only because it's so big, if everybody's heard about it, like PayPal. So we know when I can pay PayPal on the shopping site, I know it's going to be safe because it's so big. But is there going to be maybe something popping up? It's like a security certificate for, yes, this is okay to put your social security number there and apply for this payment service, or send your money via the service to your grandmother in India, and all these things like
that. I mean, that's over my head. You're my go-to resource on that one to ask those questions. I'm just, I'm still amazed that some of these big banks don't have proper multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication, where it's just like asking, your mother's maiden name. I'm not going to name the bank, but I'm working with a larger one that doesn't have. Forget about sending it to a text, but even just using Google Authenticator, it's just their multi-factor authentication is really non-existent. It's just confirming questions. And that
Bank of America had years back, and I will say that's maybe 10 years ago, or maybe a little bit less, but it's not right now, probably 10 years ago. They had something when you logged into your online portal, you had to put in your username. Then it gave you a picture that you picked the very first time, and a sentence or something. And then if that was the correct one, then you enter your password. So if I put my user in, and let's say my picture is a parrot, but there comes a monkey. So now monkey, not my parrot. I'm not going to I'm obviously not on the fraudulent side. I thought it was genius. They did it away because it was too much friction. People didn't understand. It was too complicated. Right?
I appreciated that. I use Bank of America. I did appreciate that. So for years I was just banging my head against the wall because they had nothing in place. It really was just mother's maiden name and whatever password you have. They had no proper authentication. I'm probably gonna have to delete this section now. I don't want to get in trouble. But we'll just blur out the names. But that drove me nuts. So at least like it's caught up to a degree, but I don't know. In my opinion, with money, more friction is just fine.
Yeah. So coming back to the question, what we're going to see is we're going to go over the top, and then we have to roll it back. And the buyers out there, the sellers are out there. If you have a good company, if you have a good product, if you actually stand out, service your customers, have a value proposition, it's the same story always. Is other valuations over the top? Yes, they were, but they weren't for everybody, right? It's not like there was a point where everybody could sell their company for 15x or something. There were some companies that were just going over the moon, right? And there might still be out there. Again, like if a large buyer wants a certain technology or has a strategic need now and says, look, if we build this ourselves, it's going to cost us X. If we buy it, we can afford to get it for half the money. So there might still be crazy numbers, but in general, in general, diligent. So if you're an entrepreneur, know what you're doing, know your paperwork, have your reporting, have your KPIs, your metrics, because you're going to be asked for them. And if you don't have them, it's like, what's your story? My customers love me. Show me how.
Out of curiosity, are you working with entrepreneurs on the buy side? I mean, do you have a lot of individual acquirers who you're working with looking at this space, or is that really not a thing?
Generally, no. Generally, no, because it's a little bit of a reverse logic on my interest. It's not necessarily conflict of interest, but most of the times I get paid like a commission on my consulting terms based on whatever we achieve, whatever we want to achieve, right? And now, as on the buyer side, I want to get the best price and the best deal. So it's a little bit of a reverse logic. So it's a little bit difficult. Plus, I would never take on the buyer and try to help them find something, because I can find 1,000 potential somethings, but it's still not the right thing. So I can be spinning my wheels. If I have a client that wants to find a strategic buyer investor, I know I can go find one, right? I might not always immediately find one within a week, but I know with the right approach or with the right term and with the right consulting to my client, we're going to get that deal done, right? So that's why, although I've been approached a couple of times recently by somebody saying, can you help us buy X, right? So that's a whole different story. But then I structure my payments differently. It's not dependent on how much they're going to pay for X.
Yeah, but for the most part, you're working with these owners for
Yes.
years, and so you can help kind of gear their solution to the ideal buyer over time and kind of shape that story. That's a big part of what you do.
It's not so much gearing. It's, if I misspoke a little bit, it's more consulting them of understanding what's the buyer going to ask, what are they going to want to look at, why are they going to ask, right? And what's going to be your answer? And that's not a good answer, right? We need more. We need to have these reports. You need to have this information, right? Especially if you deal with international clients, right? Your financial statements are not comparable to U.S. tax returns. Americans are used to that, right? So what do we have that we can prove to them? What is this? How do we prove that these numbers are actually the right numbers, right? What's the information that you have, and so forth. So it's more consulting, advising them. And then again, a lot of times I deal with clients that are not ready yet to sell, or most of the times it's selling, right? A lot of times they're not ready yet to sell, but they want to have that conversation. And we say, okay, what do you need to do? Like, I want to sell this company for 10 million, but you're not worth 10 million right now. So why are you not worth 10 million? What would have to happen for you to be worth 10 million, right? Where are the complications, right? So yeah, okay, 90% of your revenue comes from one customer. I guess that's going to impact your value. That could be a great customer and could make your company value more, but it's also going to be very detrimental on your valuation, because the customer concentration, if one customer goes away, depends on the relationship you have there. So these conversations is what I have.
Yeah, because the sellers don't have the education that the buyers have typically if you're dealing with the type of buyer that winds up buying the companies that you're representing.
And then a lot of times it's also in the justification or in the storytelling to the buyer, right? Yes, we do have this one customer that's 90%, but why is it 90%, and how long will he be 90%, and what does it mean that we have that customer, right? So for instance, this is a reference customer. We might not, even sometimes you could have a customer, you don't even care if you make money on them, but because this is your customer, 500 other ones say, wow, they use your product, I can use it too, because I trust that they've made a good decision, right?
Yeah.
Customer. So that's, again, that's a story you can tell that, okay, this might look like it's customer concentration that's negative, but look at the picture that's now in our sales pipeline because of this, right?
Yeah. Got it. And so for any of those founders out there who, if this is hitting home for them, how can they reach you, Regina?
Regina at bristolgroupadvisors.com. Regina, Regina, at Bristol, like the old medieval town in England, and don't ask me why. Bristol groupadvisors.com.
Perfect. All right. We'll put your LinkedIn and everything else in the show notes. Whether you're watching or listening, it'll be out there. All right. Anything else before we close out?
No, just what's an amazing playground. Keep playing.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to track you down at the end of the quarter so we can do this again. So thank you for coming on for the second time, Regina. Really appreciate it. And we'll have you on there Q3.
Yes. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Gina. Have a great day.
Summer. Bye.